Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, we have no public, so we'll forego that. Do you have any other correspondence stuff we need to? No. Okay, so we'll skip over that first item until we get Shane on with us, and we'll do some of the consent action items. We don't have any warrants to approve either, correct? No. Okay. So then we'll go into the bus routes for the 2022, 2023. Guess if you want to, everybody was here mostly.
Yeah.
Yes, Kevin wasn't.
Yeah, I would just make a recommendation that we approve the bus routes as amended tonight. We had one correspondence asking for a bus route or a bus stop, and it's not an additional stop. It's actually just changing a stop. Instead of Davis Murphy, it'd be Murphy Flynn stop on the number 5 route. And then there are a couple of additional stops that were not on the paperwork for Buffy's, but doesn't add mileage. And then on the number 1 route with Larry, once the construction's done, he'll be turning around at the flashing light, which will add an additional mile. So we just talked about that being the bus routes. And then if we have some special ed students, we might need to put a para on the number 1 route to pick them to ride with those students that would be picked up at the silos stop. So those are the only, and then we talked about some parents that we might have to provide reimbursement for if we're not able to pick them up.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Transportation Committee's recommendation for the bus routes for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the bus routes as recommended by the Transportation Committee for the 2022-2023 school year. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve the bus contract transfer.
So as we were told by MTSBA, we can, and stated in our contracts, we can transfer a contract. So I'm recommending that we transfer the current contract with the Woodrings BNL to Jeremy Rice with Bulldog Bus Lines.
I'll move to approve the contract transfer between the Woodrings BNL to Jeremy Rice with Bulldog Bus Lines.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract transfer from the Woodrings BNL to Jeremy Rice Bulldogs Bus Lines. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve the bus contract release.
Okay, so the Webbs have requested to be released from their current contract. As we discovered, we cannot reassign those routes or do anything. All the law permits is that we go out to bid. So I request that we release the Webbs from their current transportation contract with the district effective on the date that we sign a new transportation contract. And so I recommend we go ahead and begin the bid letting process.
And if I remember right from email, that bid process, well, you got it started and rolling today. The bid process.
It would go out in the paper. Yeah,
But,
this,
but I should probably clarify, but just pulling the information, then all the paperwork together for it to go out in the paper is in process.
yes,
Okay. And then that's has to appear for 3 weeks, is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
So we're hoping to have the first publishing on the 29th, so I have to have it to the papers tomorrow.
And the 29th, and that puts it out to the date, would be, what is it, the 14th or something? Did I get that date right?
It would go, I
So
didn't
the
bring my
last publication
timeline.
would be required as of the 12th, so anytime that week following, because you can have
Okay.
bids due as soon as the day after the last posting.
The 29th, the 5th, and the 12th would be our
The 12th, okay.
publication
The last
dates.
publication date.
And then that week
Okay.
of the 15th, we would open bids and approve our new contract.
Okay, so we should be in good shape, hopefully, before school starts.
Correct.
Hopefully.
And that's why we are recommending that we release them from their contract effective of the date that we are able to sign a contract with a new vendor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, I move to approve the Townsend School District Board of Trustees agrees to release the Webbs from their current transportation contract with the district effective on the date the district signs the transportation contract with a new contractor.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for the Townsend School District Board of Trustees agrees to release the Webbs from their current transportation contract with the district effective on the date the district signs a transportation contract with a new contractor. Is there any discussion?
Just one point of order, Mr. Chairman, we are going to send, assuming the successful vote on this, we'll send correspondence to the Webbs to the effect that they are aware that they're still under their contractual obligation per the terms of the motion.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just have, excuse me, I have just one question. Has anyone sat down with the Webbs and asked them if they are going to be able to provide any service in case we get into the school year without having a contractor on board?
I have not, and they have not. I mean, they said that they wanted out of their contract and were resigning as, drivers and contractors. So I know there's other obligations like the bus arms and the training and things that I don't believe they're fulfilling.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passed. All right, we don't have any personnel?
Nope.
Okay, well, we have Jason McGimsey with us. Shane Swandell must have got tied up. Hopefully, I think Jason can hopefully answer any questions that we might have. Can you hear us okay, Jason?
Yep, I got you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great.
Okay, so you have before you the information that was also sent out in an email that shows the updated fee proposal presented from A&E to do the design work in order to get us to a bid position for the additional 2 classrooms. You also have the preliminary budget put together by Shane Holting and A&E corresponding with that fee proposal and basically their best estimate on what it will cost us to do that project. Third and last, you do have a schedule proposed by A&E showing, the time that has already started and will include a date for those bid documents and then a proposed schedule for the construction should we go for it. So I guess at the moment, we've kind of started down this road, but we didn't have an exact figure from A&E on what that would cost to get us to the design bid phase. Now we do. So I guess I would like, if it is the desire of the board to proceed, that we accept that fee proposal under the assumption of the preliminary budget, if we feel comfortable that should that number come in that realm, that we are prepared to move forward. If not, we would have, I guess, one final opportunity to back out. But at that point, we have incurred some significant costs. It's not a sunk cost, as I kind of indicated. Those plans that A&E would produce, still have a significant value for a certain amount of time. I don't know, Jason, can you obviously it takes code revisions and some things like that if we go down the road a couple years, but is that a $2,000 bill or is it a $20,000 bill to review those? Best guess, I realize I'm putting you on the spot there.
So I guess we have the state just adopted in June the new ICC codes, 2021 codes. I don't see them we're probably looking for a couple years until they would adopt new codes. So depending on that, there might be nothing. If we do move forward, relative to a code review, we'd be in probably that $5,000 to $7,000 range. And that would be for mechanical, because obviously when the state adopts the new codes, they do the whole series. So mechanical, electrical, plumbing would all have to take a look. Then we'd have to take a look. It might be less than that, but I wouldn't want to, kind of shortchange you.
Yeah, no, that's a ballpark figure. The other thing, as mentioned, the schedule. We need to acknowledge that we're deviating from the current work schedule for, we've got a couple subs that are basically waiting to do work for the current project. If we're going to hold them off, the board needs to recognize that. And the other thing that I didn't include and didn't think about, if we do go forward and they do decide to move that storm drain spot, and after bidding, we decide we can't do it, that would still be a cost that we had incurred. Shane's got a rough figure plugged in there of $75,000 to do that. May or may not cost that much, but at that point, that work will have been done too. So it would be a cost that we would have to accept.
And that storm drain is in the area where these
Right.
other additional classrooms.
Currently, it sits underneath where these two classrooms are, and now we need to move it out.
Just need to bump out.
Correct.
But we're waiting, the Helena Sand and Gravel, of course, is approaching the time where they want to pave, where the basketball courts are, but they're going to have to hold off to do that until we complete this work. And we don't want to have to mobilize them twice to do the paving work. So that becomes another part of the timing of what we're trying to decide tonight.
Hey, Jason, excuse me.
Yeah.
Since we had this area designated on the plans as an area for future expansion, regardless if we go ahead with this addition or not, would it be a good idea to move that drain in either case?
Absolutely. I think to Jason's point, the cost, moving forward with it, if bids come in, obviously there will be some sunk costs, but I think there's some value to them. And this is one of those items. So, even if we got, to the point where we couldn't reach a GMP, or however we're going to frame it with DAC, I think the work up to that point wouldn't be throwaway.
Right, just moving the sewer would be, because moving that drain, I guess, would be beneficial. That is the area that was designated for expansion anyway, so.
Correct.
Yeah, even if it doesn't happen for 10 years, it would be something that we might want to get out of the way.
Exactly, yes.
So,
Okay.
so what we're saying is that it would be good to do that regardless.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes that easier to swallow. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could you explain to me, from Shane's, when we first kind of broached the subject with him, we were looking at, if I remember correctly, it was like 900 square feet, 960 or something like that for each of the rooms. And now we're looking at a total area that is about, let's just call it 30% larger again. Can you tell me how it is that we got from, call it, 1900, 2,000 square feet to 29?
Jason will probably expand on this.
Yeah, I
Basically-
can explain that. So the classrooms are the same size that you stated, but we have circulation space. So we're basically completing that corner of the school, where the new stair tower and then the existing, or the new, I'm saying existing, but we're still building it, south wall of the school. So we could pull it back. I think previously Shane was looking at it, more from that classroom when he's I think it was 1920 is what, and I can pull that up.
Yeah, that sounds about
What
right.
we were previously working with, but the additional square footage is for circulation. So there's about a 14-foot band of space that's outside of the classroom. That'll be the corridor, the lockers, and then since we're attaching to the school, we're somewhat impacting the flex space that the students were going to have. So we're going to try to create a small space where we can move some of that furniture down to the end of this new corridor that we're planning to kind of keep that square footage that we've already defined for flex intact, since we'll be impacting it.
Great, thank you, appreciate it, Jason.
Yeah.
So we're not adding more really to flex spaces, but it did take some additional space.
Yeah. So to speak, hallway space along with classroom space, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that decreased the cost per square foot, if I remember right, looking at the.
Right, yeah, like I
Yes.
said, Shane just threw out a rough, number
Yeah.
when we were trying to get, we were trying to decide, is this even worth having a conversation? He used the $500 square foot number.
Yeah.
This is more refined now that the two of them have had an opportunity to review.
Okay. Yeah.
And the adjustments that I noted in the cost per square foot. So we've already got the masonry for the south wall of that stair. We've already got the big windows. So basically we're taking those exterior materials and pushing them south to the new face of the building. We've already got the exterior metal on the east side that we can salvage and reuse. So we've got exterior materials, and pretty costly ones at that. So masonry, aluminum storefront, and then the metal siding that we can reutilize. And then we've already got two walls basically built. So the north wall of the addition, which is the south wall of the stair, and the east wall of the building, which will become the west wall of the addition. Those exterior walls those walls are already built, and they'll just go from an exterior wall to an interior wall. So, looking at that and kind of massaging that around, is kind of where the reduction that you're seeing from the initial.
Sorry, Shane was trying to get on, but he's not having any luck. So, anyway,
I just resent Shane the invite.
I did too.
Yeah.
You should have it about 4 times here pretty quick. Yeah, I guess I don't know what else really to add.
I think my question would be again around the costs and the payment. How do we pay? I mean, and sort of a rundown of the cost configurations is probably. I'm not sure if that's necessary yet. I guess you guys could probably tell me whether it is or not.
Well, I think we need to feel comfortable, at least at this point, that we have, the funds. We talked about it earlier, with what we have in premium money, that we have not allocated yet. It was just shy of 1.2 million. It's 1.18 and some change.
Okay.
Interest is still going up. So if we call it 1.2 million, we need to basically have, $150,000 that comes out of some other fund, some other budget component.
What's the
We've
interest
also
on
got
that?
potential to recoup some contingency that hasn't been.
Correct.
Correct. Although at the moment, I'm going to say, there's still a fair bit of construction to be done, and I wouldn't bank very much on that. But yes, there is that component.
And there's contingency built into this new
Right,
bid
and
as
there's
well.
contingency.
And then,
Correct.
And then the interest, what's the interest income per or revenue per month?
Honestly, it is very hard to, well, what we get from the county, it doesn't make sense if you want. Bottom line, it doesn't make sense because some months it seems like it's really high. Some months it's a lot lower number.
What should it be?
We're seeing, I'm gonna say around $6,000-7,000 a month
Okay.
is a guess.
Okay.
Without pulling out my numbers and going through it again, I'm gonna say that's an average.
So over 6 months, it's roughly $40,000. Okay. And I was just thinking about, if we have 150,000 difference, and that's roughing out at about 40 every 6 months, that'll decrease that final number.
Yeah.
So that's what that question was around, is what do we potentially, or I guess I would probably say most likely, what number will we most likely be at?
So I've been thinking of it in terms, I guess, of us being prepared to spend around 170,000, 150 to 170,000.
You feel we can do that okay?
So the metal mines account is really interesting. Not a lot of districts have it. It's a one-time fund that we received, as you know, and we have $170,000, 209. So $1,000 in there. So I think that, and in talking to Masbo and some other folks, Christy did some research on this, that, that's a fund. I mean, it's always nice to have a savings account, but that's something that we could utilize for this. That would be a long-term, benefit for the school district.
It's been sitting out there for, I don't know.
We've used it like an endowment, basically. It's just.
Yeah,
It's just
and then
been
we
sitting
have
for
the
years.
flex fund and our building reserve fund, which gets tricky with the building reserve, with which are voted and levied and which ones you can use for new construction, which portions you can't. So we'd have to do more research if we dipped into any of the building reserve type funds. Which we have a new building to maintain and an older high school, so that also can be a little bit concerning. However, we did use our ESSER monies. I think you guys did a really wise job
We've
of using
taken
that.
a big chunk out of a lot of questionable things here with our ESSER project and with what we added to the middle school, that, we attacked some of those things that could have become problems.
And would have costed you out of the building reserve. But the
Yeah.
flex fund has $273,000 more, so.
Okay, and again, and then I apologize, the flex fund is just for about anything, basically,
That one we can put money back into, whereas like the
Okay.
metal mines, of course, once we take it,
It's gone.
that's gone.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, back to the interest, I only had current as of March, but, total, we've brought in, about $145,000 in interest. But that's
Okay,
what
okay.
you can see, like I said, the number.
oh, yeah, that's odd.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it should be compounding, and it should be fairly consistent, but compounding a little. Yeah, wow. Well, for myself personally, I feel comfortable with the costs associated and the ability, the number of different ways that we have available to complete this particular project. At this point, I was just sharing. Oh, we have running out of time.
Shane,
10
I-
I
minutes.
was finally able to track down how to get on.
Hi, thanks, Shane.
It was actually your email, and I was just pouring through dozens and dozens of emails from Jason.
I know how that goes.
So you said we have 170,000 in metal mines?
Yep,
And 270 in flex.
yep. And that's rounding down, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess so we've started the process with our Northwest Energy rebates. Susie, Shane, and we've had some correspondence. So we will be getting a pretty good chunk from Northwest Energy for the new construction that we're doing. So all the LED lighting, all the variable frequency drives, the air handlers, everything that qualifies. I think, Shane, what do you think average for a new school? We've been getting about 30.
Yeah,
Okay.
a school of this size, it should be between 30 and 40,000. I never obviously count that money until it's actually in our bank, but that's normally what we see.
Yeah. So that money can go to it. And then just relative to your flex account, the roofing project. So middle school, the library, and then we will have the high school that gets re-roofed. So those are three major items that'll kind of come off your deferred maintenance list as well.
And just to throw out too, with the NCAT rebate or Northwest Energy rebate, those dollars actually have to be spent on the bond. They're not, they're considered just like another bond dollar, even though it's a rebate. We have the same rules apply to those as the interest, as anything associated with the bond. So it actually has to be utilized on the bond project.
That other door got locked is what happened. I went and dropped it once it was shut. Locking now.
Well, while we're there, Mr. Chairman, since Sean actually, kind of gave some input, I will as well. I'm pleasantly surprised that the, cost per square foot unit has come down. The overall number seems to be something that is definitely in our ballpark. I actually shared your kind of a couple conclusions you made, Mr. Chairman, that if the price came in at, high 1.5, 1.6 or something like that, we just say, well, we tried and be done with it. But this is, I think, is very competitive. I guess my greatest concern is that we pay for this. We write a check, we buy it, and we're done with it. I am, as I sit here tonight, I don't think I would probably support going into the addition of some levy. I think that we've done a good job, thanks to our consultants and folks that we're working with to be good stewards with the taxpayers' money. And if we have to go and somehow fund an aspect of this purchase through an increase in a permissive levy, even if it were that, to me, that's like going back to the taxpayers and saying that we need to have more money. So even if that means using, metal mines, which is ostensibly our endowment, using flex or some of those things, if we can't pay for it and just be done with it with the monies that we have available to us, then I think at a minimum, we need to have more public input. We need to have meetings. We need to explain to them why in the position where we are and lay all of that out to them. But if we can pay for it, then I say, it has my support. I would suggest that we move forward with it.
Agreed.
Well, and I think if we don't do it now, we're gonna be going back in the number, in a matter of just a few years, because our enrollments are increasing enough to where we're gonna be faced with having to deal with it either now or later.
And it will cost us more.
It'll cost more, yeah.
I have a question for Jason and Shane. We just completed the elementary school there, and I'm sure Dick Anderson can tell you to the penny what each assembly costs to build. How much confidence do you have in the number that you've provided here? And what outlying factors, I guess, should we be concerned with as far as something that could drive this cost higher?
What my biggest concern is going to be the mechanical. Obviously, we won't know exactly how we're going to be able to get through the mechanical system. We've already started the discussions on whether we can expand the existing system. Expand the existing system, or if we're going to have to set a new set of rooftop units to service these classrooms. And we're currently talking specifically about that. That would be my biggest concern, would be the mechanical. The rest of the stuff, I mean, Jason and I truly went through, laid out what we think we have to do from the footings, foundations, our exterior wall. Our cladding is all the same cladding that we currently have on the building. We're just not going to put it on. We're going to wait until we build it. So we've already purchased most of the exterior materials under the original contract, because that was what was going to go on the space that we're going to be using for interior wall now. I felt pretty comfortable with that number, didn't you, Jason?
Yeah, I do. The only other thing would be electrical, just from what we're experiencing with that main distribution panel right now. But I think it's going to be a couple of sub panels for this, and we should be fine. But if we do put the new air handler up on the roof, if that's required, that's a pretty big load, and hopefully our main distribution panel, we need to confirm that obviously through design, but just from a time perspective, not necessarily a cost, but it could, we're looking at right now an interim solution, because we haven't gotten that panel yet, even though we ordered it, 63 weeks ago now. We're looking at a temp power solution for the school to get you guys up and going by fall semester, just because we're not confident that we're going to receive that panel. So that would just be another concern to add to Shane's relative to mechanical, is the electrical.
Right. And the only thing I would add to that is, the time for that, I would say is not as critical, because we don't need these classrooms right now.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
for the future. So if we got hung up on something in the electrical, I don't think that's a stopping point or stopping issue for us, because we don't need these classrooms to come online instantly.
Until potentially next fall,
Correct.
if your enrollment goes up, right?
But it's not like it has to be here in April when the
Right.
schedule says we'll be done.
Yeah, and your current facility is going to operate, so you won't be out anything. Nothing will be affecting the current. Exactly what your footprint is. Nothing's going to affect that. It'd just be on the new. Those two new classrooms themselves would be isolated.
Yeah.
Okay, I would just ask as well, just to follow up. So you pointed out several components of the construction, mechanical, electrical, and so on, but didn't include a cost. And I know it's a guesstimate and ballpark. What could be the potential cost increase around a worst case scenario?
I think we got a pretty good budget. Maybe a $50,000 swing, Jason.
Oh,
We're done.
I was trying to purchase the upgraded.
but you said maybe 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get us back on one
You just
second.
gotta start a new meeting.
Yeah.
I was trying to
Yeah.
upgrade us.
I guess my question is, I mean, let's take worst case scenario on the mechanical. What if we have to get a whole new system on there? Completely independent of the other one, new ductwork, new everything. What's the cost on that? Probably about 50 grand, I would think, for 2,500 square feet roughly that we're eating. So if we look at worst case scenario, on the electrical, maybe an additional to expand the existing system and another panel or two, we're gonna be looking at 50,000 at the high side, the very high side of that.
I would think so.
Yeah, so maybe we can get these, just to kind of take worst case scenario. And my next question to kind of follow that up with is, we have a lot of latitude here. We're designing, the project isn't even designed yet. We're gonna put a value on it for the amount of money we have. Can we design to that value? With, it'd be more like a design build project than a design bid build, which is more of a traditional kind of delivery system. I don't know if those guys would be open to that. Because we could take the remainder of the premium, the metal mines, and maybe a portion of the flex, and have, we could be about 1.45 and say, this is what we got. Well, this is what we're gonna spend. We're gonna cap it right there, designed to this amount, because we don't even have plans yet. We have quite a bit of latitude. Why not? And then that way we don't get hung out on the other end of it if the bids go too high. I mean, we've got, and this is where I think maybe Dick Anderson needs to get involved, because they're the ones who bid the project.
Now, help me understand. So you mentioned design, bid, and then,
Design bid build is
Yeah.
kind of the traditional delivery system.
Right.
You get a set of plans, you put it out to bid, and then you build it, whatever.
Okay.
That's kind of the process we're following right now.
okay,
And a design build is,
I got $100.
Yeah.
Tell me what I.
I need
Give me
a garden
maximum
shed.
That's basically what we did with
Maximum
the bus
value.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we did with the bus barn.
Okay,
It's part of, it's under state law, it's under the alternative delivery method in chapter 18 of the MCA. But,
Okay.
Shane knows the specifics of that, and I don't know if they'd be willing to consider doing something like that. I mean, that just protects the district.
yeah, I see the difference. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That makes sense.
But now you get to ask your question.
Yeah.
No, I stated it, you guys.
I'm back.
I like
Where
it.
did I cut off at?
Right when you said approximately 50,000.
Yeah, that would be, if I was guessing, and obviously I want Jason to weigh in. If there was a swing, it could be 50 maybe, if we're on the mechanical. Has Jason hooked back up yet?
Yep, I'm back in.
Sorry, guys.
So-
You kicked us
So
out.
picking back up, I think the 50,000 seems safe, but I also feel that between the contingency and the square foot number we're carrying and some swings we might see in other areas, it might end up a wash. We've got good subs. Everybody's mobilized. We're going to continue construction, pretty much seamlessly. So I'm being pretty optimistic here, but I would like to think we could just absorb those within. We're really, just.
I'm packing 70,000 for moving that pit. We're going to reutilize the same boulders. I'm sure it's not 70. So it'll be interesting to see what those numbers would roll in. I think I'm high there. That's a big number to move that pit, So I think, again, I always get especially lately, if you just throw stuff off the top of your head, but I still feel pretty comfortable that we're going to build the B within that range. And ultimately, it's going to come back to you guys to final approve anyways before the two things that we're going to need to do that we need to know now is obviously make sure we turn loose the design and then in the pit. The other rest of it, that full number is going to come back to you guys as a bid, just like it did last time for a GMP. So you still have the ability to not do it if it's completely out of the budget.
I have a question here regarding that. If we take a look at the proposal or the estimate that you've provided, I won't call it a proposal, the estimate that you've provided, and we take worst case scenario on the mechanical and electrical and any other systems that might need to be expanded, and say we're at whatever that number comes out to be, 1.45 maybe, wherever that comes out to be, could we just cap that project, cap the whole project at that amount? We have a lot of latitude, it hasn't been designed yet, and build to that number or design to that number? Do you think that would be a workable plan?
Yeah, if we can get DAC to buy into that, which I'm sure we could, I think that's fine.
That just alleviates any risk for the district.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I could ask them about that. I think you're going to eliminate the risk from the standpoint of you're not going to have anything. You're going to have the final approval on what it is, and we don't want it to be that much as it is to be. I mean, we're hoping that it's under that considerably.
Right.
Yeah. But what I don't want to do is obviously put a number out that we know is not even realistic. To be honest, I truly think it's going to come in under the 1.3, 1.345. I still think it's going to be under that, but and under good conscience, I can't put it under that.
Yeah, we're in kind of a volatile economic environment right now. I mean, it's tough.
Yep.
But I mean, if we cap the project, would that allow us to, is there enough flexibility in the design of the building so that we could build to that amount? And at least, at least we'll have a project.
I think so. Jason, are you kind of following that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be probably the biggest T&M not to exceed kind of agreement that we've ever made.
And I would still make them bid it though. I mean.
Oh yeah.
We're still going to bid it, and we're still coming up with a number.
Yeah.
That's going to go in front of the board, regardless. But if you would approve the 1.47 and have us move forward, that number is still going to be delivered to you absolutely before anybody goes out and starts trying to build something. You guys are going to know exactly what it is.
Okay.
And I expect it to be in that 1.3 range where Jason and I are at.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I don't know, what do you guys think about putting, trying to put a cap on it? I just,
Which you guys will be able to put a cap on it because it's going to come back in front of you, and you will know exactly what that number is. If it's over the 1.4, you guys have the absolute ability to say no, too much. I don't expect it to be there.
I think, what I was trying to arrive at by putting a cap on it is that the building could be modified or designed to that amount. So we end up with a project and we don't end up, exercising you and spending money on soft costs to.
Yeah. So Jason, is there ability, because if we had to shell this thing down, we could get there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, basically, we would have an option to do a value engineering phase between the bids and the GMP acceptance, just like we did on the original project.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're carrying $60K right now for furniture. I mean, that's something that could easily be removed and done at a later date. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk right there.
Gentlemen, do we run
under that kind of a cap scenario, build to bid kind of thing, are we? I mean, is there any concern that those two classrooms, the new build out area, all that is kind of, pardon the expression, is kind of the poorer sister of the rest of the building? I mean, is there enough change on those kind of things, or is it really just like exercising any of the alternates that we had before?
I would say it's identical. We wouldn't do anything less. What we would do is it wouldn't have, you would pull back, like, okay, we're not going to spend the $60,000 to put furniture and fixtures in here, and you guys have, time to do that. And in fact, we already know we have an extra classroom of furniture because we're having to store that because of the kindergarten having to take, change out the furniture in the one room because of kindergarten going there.
Right.
So that already took part of that $60,000 out. I would guess, if that's how Susie's planning on doing it. So yeah, no, I don't think you wouldn't have a lesser quality. You're going to have the exact same space as far as footages. You're going to have the same wall, the same exterior. It would just be how we finished out the room. And that would just be a function of, well, we didn't put flooring in there because we don't have the budget, or it's not ready for it. And then you can always put the flooring in. But I don't see that being the case.
I appreciate that clarification.
So yeah, to actually, long and short of it, I guess the way Kevin's looking at it, absolutely, we could do it that way, because we would just pull those dollar values out. And to be honest, I have that on the owner side anyways. That wouldn't be a DAC line item. That's a Susie's line item, for the furniture, for the IT. That's a district line item itself.
Okay.
So if you wanted to proceed under that, I mean, that'd be easy enough to make a motion for us to ensure that we're designing to and implementing a project that's under 1.4 million. And we're still going to come back. I'm still going to make the AC bid it, because we need to, the competition, we need to know the numbers, and that's still going to come back in front of you guys regardless. Yeah.
Big change order. I'm for it. I think.
Yeah, no, like I say, is with the caveat that, like I say, for me, it's, I guess we can talk about how it's going to be paid for once we see the number.
Yeah, then we'll
and
have to-
I'm happy to reserve, like I say, my concerns with, like I say, paying for it cash on the barrelhead, not having to, to finance any other portion of that through an increase in a permissive levy or something like that. We can reserve that part of that conversation once they
But,
those numbers
yeah,
up.
and as I mentioned, I think this is a good go ahead. When you actually add up all the numbers, we talked about the pieces. We talked about metal mines, flex monies, interest, Northwest energy monies, plus what we have available. We have 1.9 million available to be, if we were to use everything that we had available, we have about 1.9 million. So I think we can fit it within. I think we can do it. Yeah. I like, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, then would you, I guess that time, I mean, I don't know, don't necessarily need to move the cloture, but I guess I would move that board and district approve the use of the remaining bond premium interest funds and, utilization of other fund balances necessary for the build out of 2 additional classrooms on a budget with a maximum of $1.4 million.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and I'm not gonna repeat that.
A little bit of discussion. Is that 1.4 workable, Shane?
I think it is. Jason and I I mean, I was originally at 1.4 and some, I don't have it in front of me, but I was a little more, and that was just because I wanted to make sure you guys, I mean, I put it together so fast, and I didn't even have any of Jason's input because I wanted to get it in front of you. I wanted to give you a realistic, hey, is this even something that you guys want us to entertain? And then we actually did sit down, and Jason and I walked through every piece of the construction of this and what we weren't going to have. We already got foundations on 2 sides. So we lowered the number. So I think we did our due diligence, Kevin, from that perspective. But you were absolutely right. In the current market, it still scares the hell out of us.
Yeah.
But I think there's some pretty big dollars in there. And I have some pretty good safety dollars as well. With the contingency. And so, yes, I think it is. Especially if we have that flexibility. Hey, we don't have to spend that $60,000 to put to fully furnish it. That's a big number. I would like to add one thing in the motion is if we get those rebates, we need to build. You have to spend those rebates too. So the rebates from Northwest Energy need to be part of that. I don't know if we need to add that to the amendment or not.
I wouldn't think so, because they fall under the caveat of bond dollars. So I think we would spend the bond. I mean, we want to spend the bond dollars first, no matter what. And since they qualify as bond dollars, I think that would be understood.
Yeah, because they're going to cut us a check, and that check has to go into the bond account.
Yeah.
And then we have to utilize that bond just like any other bond dollar.
Yeah. And that'll be no different than if there's a little bit of contingency left on the other side.
Yep.
We're going to spend that first.
Now,
And just like the interest too.
Yep.
The interest has got to do the same thing. Yep.
now, maybe this is a moot point, and 1.4 is fine if that's what you guys feel comfortable with. Just given the market and the volatility of the market and all the other aspects, and we're going to approve what we approve at a particular price point. So that's a given as well. But does it make you on that particular motion? Would it make a person feel any better to put 1.5 on the max dollar amount, or
Can we just take out the
Sure.
word maximum?
We're going to
Sure, what that would
approve
probably
the
open up
GMP
is-
no matter what.
Yeah, but that might give a little more flexibility just in case.
Your flexibility on that end would come from if you need to, like the furniture, right? If we're short, we don't have the 60,000 because we used it for mechanical instead of putting chairs in there. That's a good idea, and that's on your side of the ledger, anyways.
So I think it's a moot point, but I would amend the motion by changing 1.4 to 1.5, just based upon the feedback of Shane and Jason.
Did you get the motion close enough?
Most of it.
Okay, why don't you read what you got, just so
Okay.
we're all on the same page.
I didn't get every word.
It's pretty much as written.
Todd also moved to approve the use of the remaining bond premium and utilization of extra school funds with a maximum of $1.4 million.
Amended now to 1 point. Well, is there a
Sean,
second? Yeah, is there a second on the
Yeah.
amendment?
Okay.
Actually, a substitute.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to amend the motion to 1.5 million.
And again, I think it's probably a moot point, but if they feel better, we're going to approve what we approve anyway.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, the only thing I would like to make sure that we have in the minutes under discussion is accepting the fee proposal of $93,327. I just want that in the minutes to make sure that everybody understood we accepted that cost.
Okay, where's that one written down?
That's included in this though, isn't it?
It is.
It
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I would dispute that, Jason. We're not going to agree on that.
No,
That it was approved before, on that motion before.
that's why I'm asking to do it now.
Okay, how would you like it to read?
It's part of that.
Just the discussion that we understand that there's a $93,000, $327 fee proposal to design and get us to bid.
Which is part of the proposal preliminary
Yeah.
budget that we're approving. Okay.
Yeah, which is included within.
But we can pull the plug in September on the rest of this. We still have to pay that amount.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
there
the
any
one
further
caveat, don't forget, we need to move that pit.
Right, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Okay, I believe that is everything. Thank you both for joining in tonight. Sorry about the little, we can
Thank
only
you.
afford short stints on the budget.
Yeah, I need $50 to upgrade our Zoom here.
We were the low bidder.
I don't know that just started happening to me today, so that's been fun. Thank you. Sorry about that.
You bet. Thank you.
Talk to you guys
Thank
tomorrow.
you.
Yep.
If nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Meeting.
I was trying to get our payment info
I know.
in there fast enough. I'm like,